Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on this, I think, an excellent report. A report from the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. It's an excellent report for me as a minister in particular. It gives me an opportunity to reflect on some of the things that have happened in my ministries in the past. I think that the quality of the report shows that even when we have members of government in charge of the Public Accounts Committee, that it still works well. Because they can come up with an excellent report like this. Because we have heard in this House, time and time again, as the members have stood up, they said that only when a member of the opposition is in place do we get really good reports. This is an example of what happens when you have a government member. It gives us detailed information. It gives us good and powerful information so we can dig. So that puts to rest that myth. Let's put to rest that particular myth. Because here on this side also, we have the best interests of the people of this country at heart. Members of the opposition will go around as if they are the only ones who have the best interests of Fiji at heart. We also, Fiji first, puts Fiji first. That's what Fiji first does. So, and they seem to go on as if when we had governments back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, as if all the ministries had unqualified opinions in audit. Hogwash! Hogwash! Go back and read it. Absolute hogwash. Under the Rabuka government, all these governments, they always had qualified reports. What are you trying to say? But since that time, we continue to make improvements. So let's not create this myth that everything has disappeared in this time.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. I think the Honourable Minister is totally misrepresenting what we said. We actually acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, I did that. I said these kind of issues have been with all governments. So I think they have to be a bit honest about what they say, what we say from this side. No?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I did not name the Honourable Biman Prasad. Other members have stood up and said, wow, look, qualified reports, as if it's something that's never happened before. As if it's something that's never happened before. These things have happened in the past, and we continue to work on them. And for me as a minister, I appreciate the information in this report. Thank you, Chairman of the committee, for doing your job well for the people of this country. As ministers, we don't normally delve down into the nitty-gritty of the operations of what an accountant does. But for me, this report is great because it gives me an opportunity to see some of the things that did not happen as they should. And we know, in all organizations, there is no organization in the world where everything is hunky-dory 100% all the time. Never happens. You always have variation. There is normal variation and there is abnormal variation. There's always normal variation. What we don't want that normal variation is to become a part of the way things are done all the time. But audit is a part of the process of improvement. It is a part of the process of improvement. We have an audit, it gives us information on how things are being done, and as a minister, I hold up this report to my permanent secretary, who I hold responsible to manage my ministry as a CEO, and I tell him this is the indications of things that you need to fix in this ministry. That's how it is used. Mr. Speaker, sir. So, having this report gave me an opportunity to raise some of the issues with my permanent secretaries. In the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, as I know they've given me a report, I've looked at the various things that they've talked about here, the administrative issues and governance issues. I've seen the Auditor General's recommendations, and I have comments from my permanent secretaries about what they've done about those things. So it shows that the system works. The system of performance management that we're talking about. We have targets. We want constant efficiency improvements, effectiveness improvements, and all of these things as I go through them. Maintaining a gift register that is now being done. Reconciliation to be done on a timely basis. Now they're showing that it's done. So there's improvement. Things are being done. There's been work being done on all of these things. All the various audits, the trust funds, all of these things. I can see in the response from the ministry that they've actually done something in addition to what was recorded in when the report was produced. I think this report was discussed in probably 2018 or 2019. So from that time, they've taken the work further. That's what performance management systems do. You have your KPIs for your permanent secretaries and you expect them, you tell them, as part of it, when the audits come out, I as a minister expect that you will make an improvement. That's how it works. This is something that's happened in all previous governments. It's not something new. It's a way, this is how we always function in terms of government. Now, just to highlight some particular ones that I wanted to highlight from the Ministry of Lands, there's one here in terms of arrears of revenue. Arrears of revenue, the audit noted that the arrears of revenue for the Department of Lands, which totaled 26 million at that time, only included Crown Land Lease. Department was not able to provide arrear figures for the other revenues. There were some recommendations done by the Auditor General about what they need to do. And I see the Minister's response, what the Permanent Secretary and the team has been able to do. The Ministry has vigorously implemented and instigated appropriate measures and strategies to strengthen collection of revenue. And at the same time is working in reducing arrears of revenue. This includes the digitization of our records. So they're introducing new technology, which is what we expect from a Permanent Secretary. We expect them to be effective, to come up with new strategies to improvement. We sit as ministers, members of parliament, and we expect the civil service to do their jobs. For several years, we've been requesting funding to support stabling digitization of our land records, and now that has been done. Now they've developed a debt and revenue management policy, waiver of interest incentive schemes, site visits to lessees, issuance of notices and flyers on rental, accepting undertaking with lessees to clear rental arrears with the respective period. So this shows to me that this whole system is working, is making improvements to what we have. The other one that I wanted to mention from the Ministry of Lands, there was one recommendation. There's one recommendation here that all the legislations should be reviewed and updated on a regular basis to accommodate changing developments. Auditor General's recommendation was that the department should consider making proposals to review legislations governing the department to ensure that all different legislations are harmonized. What have they done after that? Groundwater resource management and development policy. This final policy is currently being vetted at Solicitor General's office. So they've taken action on these things. Review of the Mining Act and Mineral Policy. Cabinet has already endorsed the review and of the corresponding policy, and consultations are underway. Review of the service regulations in its final stages of vetting by the Solicitor General's office. Amendments to State Lands Regulation 10 and 12 was pursued. So what I'm trying to point out, that in the aftermath of these audits, the permanent secretaries and their teams are working on it to make those improvements. And the same sorts of things I'm also seeing from the other ministry that I have, the Ministry of Infrastructure. They have summarized all of looking at all of the things that are in the report. They have summarized them as a number of key issues. In terms of reconciliation, the Ministry is now ensuring that reconciliations are done on a timely basis by meeting the Ministry of Economy's timelines. That is to be done on the 15th of every month. And I have this, as a minister, when I meet with my permanent secretary, which we meet once a fortnight, these are some of the things that I talk to them about. You made this undertaking, show me that you've continued to carry that out. That's how we do. That's how ministers operate with the permanent secretary. Secondly, that they have a checking system in place to ensure that reconciliations are accurate. Third, that variances are being rectified through close collaboration with the Ministry of Economy through the Financial Management Information System. Fourth, that the checking system is in place by the respective accounts officer in charge to ensure proper recording. Capacity building is being conducted to strengthen the capacity of the department. The checking system is in place by the respective accounts officer in charge to ensure proper recording. The ministry is in consultation with the Ministry of Economy and also has in place strategies for the plant hire TMA entity. So those are some of the things that I'm glad to see. That is why I said I appreciate this particular report. And I appreciate the work that has been done by the Public Accounts Committee. One of the things, that was highlighted earlier this week, I think it was done by the Honorable Biman Prasad, one of the things that has come out of the report is the absolute criticality of human resources that we have. The quality of the civil service. If they do their job well, we as members of parliament who make legislations and policies are able to see that the things we agree to in this house are actually implemented on the ground for the benefit of our people in this country. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. I agree wholeheartedly. Your most important resource is your human resource. Not just your human resource, but I think the most important of that human resource is the leadership of the human resources. The quality of our permanent secretary is absolutely fundamental. Quality of leadership is always one of the most important things in any ministry, in any undertaking. You have to select the right people. You have to select the right people. And that is something that is that can be true right across the board in all kinds of organizations. I think all governments have tried to do this. governments before the Bainimarama government, governments before the Fiji First government, they've always tried to do this. They've come up with reforms. Reforms, as one member said, is not new. That is true also. The reform that our government is doing is a reform where we saw the shortcomings of the reforms that were taken place before, and we move it a notch further. We identify the deficiencies there, then we come up with a system to address the quality of the human resource in this country. We know that in the past, we've always had issues of cronyism in terms of selection. There's always been the old boys network of some schools. Some schools have their old boy network. We know all of these stories. There has been stories of people being selected into positions by ethnicity, by provincialism. We needed to get rid of that. If we know that the most critical resource in an organization, human resource, we have to have a system that makes sure you identify a position and you identify the best person for that position. If you get the right person on the bus, no, which may be a degree, but it also includes what you can do, your skill, which is not necessarily your degree, but what you can do. What can do has to be shown by things you've done in the past, how you've led, how you've been able to achieve things. And thirdly, it must become inside, your attitude. So merit has these three components. It's your qualification, what you know, what you can do, and what's inside here. Your passion is what you want to do. So when we select for open merit recruitment system, we look at all of these components. So we can get the best person in the job. And then what we do, and then it's not just a matter of selecting a person, then you have a system to manage that person's performance. That's why you have a performance management system. You identify, you have a strategic plan, then you have a costed operation plan for the year, then you need individual targets for each person in that ministry. That's what the performance management system does. And as part of that performance management system, because you're not only looking at performance in 1 year, you have to look at performance over the next 10 years. So you develop succession management plans. You have a permanent secretary, you look around, who is the person with the best potential to become the next permanent secretary? You identify them, high potential, then you have a program to develop them so they can take over. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have come up with a solution that we see is working to address this issue. We'll continue to work on it so we can develop the best group of people in this country to move Fiji forward. So, I think the last thing that I'd like to say, if you keep looking backwards in the rear mirror, thinking whatever happened in the past is the best way, you will crash, because you look in the mirror, you don't see the tree that's in front of you. So please, let's look forward. Once again, I think, thank you, Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, for this report, absolutely great report. We will work on it to make sure that we can address these things. So, and the members too from the other side. Public Accounts Committee, so we can keep on making sure that we will put Fiji first and the best interests of our Mr. Speaker, sir.